Looking back to your first company, what were the biggest challenges you faced as a founder? And first of all, why did you jump into entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship's it's a DNA thing. It's in your blood, and any entrepreneur knows that. I couldn't resist that. So if it was, selling rocks in the neighborhood or starting a company that put Christmas lights up or something like that, entrepreneurship was just in my blood. I think the biggest lesson was I just could not do this on my own. I couldn't hire some consultants and experts.
So David, let's start with your founding journey and lessons that you learned there. Looking back to your first company, what were the biggest challenges you faced as a founder? And first of all, why did you jump into entrepreneurship?
Sorry, ask the last question again.
Why did you jump into entrepreneurship? What prompted you to start your first company?
Yeah, I think it's one of those wirings. It's the way that people are. And so entrepreneurship's it's a DNA thing. It's in your blood, and any entrepreneur knows that. I couldn't resist that. So if it was, selling rocks in the neighborhood or starting a company that put Christmas lights up or something like that, entrepreneurship was just in my blood. Your original question, though, was like, how about that journey of entrepreneurship? And really the successful company that was a software company, I would say there's a story before that story, which was another company that I founded, a media company that was not a success. And it was from the family business transitioning into owning my first company, big company or, real company, that I learned, I think the biggest lesson was I just could not do this on my own. I couldn't hire some consultants and experts to help me, but then I was trying to manage the sales and marketing, the operations, and the finance aspects of business. And so it was this entity that showed me that I needed to bring alongside a complementary team and surround myself with people that were even more knowledgeable in their disciplines than I was, and figure out a way to have that chemistry, to get along and to have some fun and build trust so that we could create something truly great. And so that was a software company, and it was a great experience. But even as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I found I love to do even more than run my own business was to help other people succeed and think about these things too. So I moved from founder to frameworks, and I came across EOS, and it just is a business operating system framework that provides, great clarity. It provides traction, momentum, and is cognizant of that we need to work as a healthy, cohesive team. So that's what I've spent my time doing for the past 9 years.
So let's touch upon founders to framework. What do you mean by that? Please, give me some examples, live examples.
Yeah, entrepreneurs, we're dangerous. We're like nitroglycerin, used for the right thing. It's extremely powerful, but if you don't use it right, it blows you up. And so being a founder or entrepreneur, you need to complement that with some frameworks, some things that you can have come along your side that helps create success or puts up guardrails to help ensure greater success.
Okay, that makes sense. So very early on, you realized, David, that sales is not good enough just for an entrepreneur to run a successful company. How did that realization came to you? Sales versus operations versus a cohesive team building. Take me through that journey when you realized that, just knowing sales wasn't enough to scale a business.
Right. Holistically, it's just, one aspect of, I would just say 3 at the foundational level or simple level. There's 3 disciplines. There's the sales and marketing. And for sure, this is an important area, but not the only important area. A lot of people say, hey, nothing happens until sales comes in. And, arguably that's right. But then you have the operations area where you need to deliver the product or service or both. And to juggle selling and delivering is a challenge. And then you have the areas of finance or compliance, IT, data. Those things are another whole discipline in itself. And what we find is if you just have 1 or 2 of those, your company, you will still suffer. And so we need to have all three of those. And often it's not just a matter of removing hats from one area to the other. It's really finding somebody who wears that hat, who is born for that, who is wired for that, and then having them come alongside to work with you. Now, when you do that, it causes conflict because a finance person looks at things differently than a sales or marketing person. Same thing for ops. Ops looks differently than finance or sales. And so we need to figure out a way to bring these three things together, and a framework just helps us do that.
Great. Makes sense. Makes sense. Let's talk about scaling leadership challenges in a startup format. What do you think? Many founders will struggle with their startup start growing. They went out, they raised a lot of money, maybe $5 million check came in as Series A, and now the startup is growing. Scaling will come a little later. What do you see the top 3 or 4 priorities that kind of a founder who just raised $1 million, $5 million in their Series A round should focus on?
It's a great question that just has a lot of different levels to it. If we think about it in terms of those 3 different areas in the business, to go out for a fundraise, you need all 3 of the elements, but often it's the sales and marketing or entrepreneurial vision, even if they're a technician, that they sell that causes them to win that investment capital. But that's just a starting point. Now we need to deliver. And what works in a 1 or 2 or 5 or 30-person organization, it's different. It's heroics at that point. And at some point, maybe it's around the 50 people standpoint, we outgrow heroics and we need systems in place. And so the lack of clarity or ownership of where we're going and how we plan to get there is a huge gap between what's in the mind of an entrepreneur, even several people that are successful at getting investment or gaining a few clients, and then how we're going to grow or scale that organization.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I've seen, and I spoke to a lot of founders, and I find out that they are not in handling chaos that well. They are not good at that at all, and at times they have misalignment with their team members, with the execute on vision and all those things. What are the frameworks that are available to those kind of founders who should look at EOS or some other framework, and how to manage or handle the chaos and misalignment towards the vision of the company?
I like it. I mean, I am an expert EOS implementer and have a lot of experience with this framework. And so I lean into that. But I recognize there are other business operating systems that are also excellent. Any one of them, just research them and figure out what's the best fit for you. But any business operating system is about freeing founders from firefighting. So we have firefighting, which is that chaos that founders or entrepreneurs often create. And then you have this fire prevention, which a framework helps you to create. And that, if you do the fire prevention, it will create freedom. And then an entrepreneur is free to, explore and elevate to greater things that they can contribute than fighting the day-to-day fires.
Founders are also not that good in people management. What is the role of people management in building a successful startup, or a team structure? How a founder should approach that?
Yeah, they should approach it by figuring out what it is that they do really great and then delegating to somebody else what that person does great. One of the uniquenesses of the EOS system, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, is that the founder, owner, the creator of EOS, Gino Wickman, discovered that in an entrepreneurial organization, there's a couple of different qualities or a couple of different expertise that people deliver. And usually an entrepreneurial founder is a great visionary. They come up with tons of great ideas. Every meeting, they have a new idea or a dozen of new ideas. And a lot of those are just distractions. one or two of them, maybe they're phenomenal for us to focus on. The other type of leader that every organization needs is what Gino calls an integrator. That's the person, the glue that holds everything together, the one that drives accountability, the one that's focused on executing the last great idea of a visionary entrepreneur. And it's that position that really is responsible to lead, manage, and hold people accountable. And visionaries are not usually as adept, or it's not their sweet spot of where they bring lots of value. Visionaries that are forced into that position, and sometimes when you're working with an entrepreneurial company, they don't have the luxury of having that additional position. So the burden of managing people comes on that visionary entrepreneur, and it's where they get burnt out, tired. They just decide, maybe I should just go back and work for somebody else because this running a company is not working as well for me.
Mhm. You just touched upon that, ideas are distraction. About 80 or 90% of the ideas may become distraction. Let's explore that a little more. How a founder should identify which is an opportunity and which is a snake. Ideas are distraction.
By inviting the snake charmers into the conversation. And the snake charmers would be the other people around in the business who have their own skill, their own department, their own discipline, their own expertise, and letting it fit within the whole team rather than one person, the visionary, says, hey, my next great idea, let's go after it. And the rest of the people are like, wait a second, we still are working on your last three ideas that are so phenomenal that if we pursue the new one, we're going to have to drop one of those others. So the snake charmers thing, when you said the snakes, I jumped to that. But it really is that team. I'm going to come as a visionary entrepreneur open-handed with a new great idea or a dozen great ideas. But I'm empowering to tell me no, to tell me which ones of these we can pursue or should pursue, and which ones of these, as close as they may be to my heart, we need to pass on at this time so that we can focus on delivering the last idea.
David, let's talk a little about the organizational chaos, lack of clarity in roles, reactive culture, operational inefficiency. Give me some examples that the startup founders can relate to. Be it take an example of a software company or a SaaS company or a product company, and give me some examples that what those chaos looks like and how the founder should navigate that.
All right. I love this question because the answer is really so simple that a lot of people, when they hear it, they're just like, wow, of course that's the case. But we just don't live it out very well, or we don't give our attention to it. And that is, we take what's in our mind, rolling around here or rolling around our chest, it's on our hearts, and we put it out to the team. And then we let the different ideas settle and we decide on what direction to take. And once we settle on that direction to take, we commit to that by writing it down. And that becomes our North Star. That becomes our framework that we're operating under until such things happen that external forces or internal forces cause us to change that. But if we don't ever write it down, we don't know what we're changing from. And we continue to have organizational whiplash where we move from one, fire, putting out that fire, to the next. When we have our vision written down with clarity, it helps us move forward. And I'll just tell you that the process of EOS, we're doing some exercises and facilitating conversations where what gets written down has been thought through, worked through, and now we settle. Because you have three different ideas, we cannot pursue all three. We need to coalesce that into one, or just decide, yes, okay, we can't do all of them, so we'll just go that route. And once we write it down, we have something that we know we're all moving in the same direction. We're all rowing in the same direction. There's nobody pulling in different directions. And it's a really powerful position to be in when you're crystal clear on your vision.
David, in a startup world, the founder, the co-founder, the early employee of the company, everybody is very, very busy, and they are working on multiple things, at times firefighting. Communication is a key to any success, I believe.
Yes.
Uh, and people in their chaos management forget to communicate. Give us some examples or toolkit to help founders communicate with their company. Consider a company has about 20 employees. They are funded, and now they are scaling their business. What should be the communication look like? Do you want the founder to be doing a agile or a daily hustle call, or will it should be more formal via email, some Slack channel? How do you want the founder to manage that communication?
Yeah, there are so many different ways to communicate, and leaning into a rhythm is, I think, what I've learned is the best way to communicate. And I think it's because those rhythms are just like biorhythms of life, of nature. Here in the Midwest, we're moving from summer into fall, and it's a noted change. And then there'll be fall into winter and spring and summer. Those four rhythms they coincide with in EOS what we do, where we meet quarterly to celebrate success from the past, see what went well, what didn't, refocus our plans for the future. So this is communicating. I'm communicating to you what went well, what didn't go well, what our plans are for the future, and giving you a chance to refine that so that we're all owning it and moving forward. In the rhythms of life, there are also a weekly cadence. We have, if you get a luxury of taking Saturday and Sunday off to kind of rest and relax and refocus, that's kind of a rhythm. And in business, we have a weekly rhythm. I think that we honor that weekly rhythm by, as a leadership team and as departments, connecting with the people who we're leading and who are leading us. And so we call that a level 10 meeting in EOS. There's a reason for that. We can talk about it another time, but it's a weekly cadence, face-to-face if possible, virtually, have faces if it's possible, but we commit to that weekly rhythm. The reason we commit to that weekly rhythm is it forces or invites communication, and it helps us avert a whole lot of chaos and lack of communications and misunderstandings and missed priorities and disappointed expectations. If we commit to that weekly rhythm, then we have this shorter leash so that we're coming back to the team, talking about the issues, working those through. What do we need to prevent that's coming up? What fires do we need to put out? And everybody does their work. We put our heads down, then we get together next week. And before you ask another question, I already know that a lot of entrepreneurs are saying, I have no time for this. I can't spend 90 minutes a week with my team. I'm already in 27 other meetings. And I'll just tell you, if you commit to this rhythm, you will eliminate so much chaos, so many train wrecks going on, and so much lack of communication that one weekly meeting will make it so that you don't have to engage in 10 other meetings that you're invited into to manage a different project or to put out a fire or to meet with a client on something else. So the one meeting helps reduce the amount of other meetings that you'll have.
Great. Let's talk a little more about EOS and how EOS can help early stage founder, and at what time they should start looking for mentorship from US expert implementers.
There's all kinds of
how early they should get in touch with you.
Yeah. So Gino Wickman wrote a book called Traction. It's kind of become a staple in a lot of entrepreneurial circles. I just commend this to your reading. There are some other books that have come up, but this really encapsulates the core elements of what you need. You need to be clear on your vision. You need a people strategy for growing beyond that 50, and what systems you have in place. You need a simple approach to data. You need to have a culture that welcomes issues or obstacles and opportunities conversation, and then an approach to addressing them efficiently. Of course, you need to have systems in place, processes in place, and then you need something that gives you traction. You need that cadence and rhythm of plannings and meetings. So those 6 foundational elements are EOS. And I would just say you need all of them. You ask, when do you bring me in? And I think if you just start knowing what those kind of basics are and have something in place, like you have a vision in place and it's written down, you have an accountability chart in place, not only who does what, but who is accountable to who and who is accountable for what. And then you have that weekly rhythm to meetings and a quarterly cadence, and of course an annual planning cadence. Also, you also don't ignore team health in the process. Wow, I said a lot there, but you can, just as an entrepreneur, when I first came across EOS, Gino Wickman was speaking to a half-day session, and literally I was writing all of my entrepreneurial vision down. What are my core values? What's my core focus? Where am I going in 10 years? What's my marketing strategy? 3-year picture, 1-year plan, 90-day priorities. We call those rocks, and issues. Literally, I poured those all down on this simple document called the VTO. I'm happy to send it to any of your listeners if they just send me an email, or they can get it on my EOS website. But if you just go through a process with your team of collaborating and hearing what they think the vision is and you sharing yours, you can have those conflicts and conversations to settle on what it actually is and then move forward unified. Otherwise, the vision is a little different in all the key leaders' heads.
Right. So true. Can you share some case studies in your vast experience where going through a framework has really helped the start founder without disclosing a lot of details about your customer? Can you identify? I'm looking for case study that the founders can relate to so that they understand the value of a framework like EOS.
Sure. I'm going to take a stab at this. You might want to ask it again after I give this first analogy. But we do a couple of initial meetings. We do a focus day to learn some EOS tools, what we're going to do. And then we move into vision building, that process of collaborating with a whole leadership team rather than just going what's in the heads of the entrepreneur or the leadership team. And I think that what I want to say here is that a lot of assumptions are made in a lot of organizations. I mean, you might have a business plan, but you don't sit down together as a team for a full day, usually offsite in some other location, and work through all of these. And when you do that, one of the reasons that entrepreneurs avoid this is because they don't want to see dissension or differences and handle that conflict. So they just put it off and live with their rose-colored glasses like, oh, I'm sure everybody knows my vision. I'm sure everybody just has something really similar. But when we take those rose-colored glasses off and we share genuinely from our heart, this is a vision, all of a sudden we get differences of opinion that emerge. Somebody else says, no, that's not what I thought we were doing. I thought we were headed here, or I thought we we're going to invest in this, or this is the most important priority, not that. And it creates this place of conflict. And conflict can get challenging. Man, especially in India, the passions raise and you move from English to Hindi to Bengali or Marathi or whatever part of India I'm in. You could see all those tensions rise. And if we can navigate through that tunnel of chaos, we navigate through to clarity. And when we are clear, some people just say, hey, now that we're clear, that's not where I was headed. I was going a different direction. So, hey, love and respect all of you, but I'm out. Which seems painful for the moment, but when you replace that person with somebody that's aligned and does get it and shares your vision, your life is so much better. You don't just run a better business, you live a better life. And so avoiding the conflict or avoiding the lack of alignment in vision, it just doesn't help us long term. It just makes the long term more painful. So
Mhm.
short-term pain over long-term conflict and stress and struggle, definitely preferred here. So is that at least part of the answer to your question?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Any other example that you would like to share?
Um, I think it's just similar. Even as you go through and you align vision, there's things emerge like what a person or what I say I can perform at the end of the quarter. If you hold accountability and say, "Hey, David, how did you actually perform? Did you get those priorities 100% done or 0% done or somewhere in between?" Then emerges when you have the framework that's drawing those differences out. It's not just you subjectively saying, "Hey, you're not working hard enough or you're not delivering." The system and
Mhm.
framework is showing you the gap between what you promised and what you delivered. And so then I always say this to my teams: we'll not spend a moment of time attacking the individuals around this table. We will attack the issues. And so if you're not meeting up, I'm not going to attack you, but I am going to attack the issues that you're creating. And so I'm inviting that person that's not delivering or underperforming to attack the issue with me. And when that happens, we're all on the same team. And that person often sees, "Hey, I know I didn't deliver. So maybe there's another position that I can deliver 100%. Let's find somebody that can take us to the next level that we need to go."
Uh, David, that brings me to another interesting question that how about if the people is the issue? You had a wrong hire. What do you do now?
Yeah, I've heard some business gurus say, hire slow, fire fast. Um, Firing is painful, especially for an entrepreneur. So I'm going to lean into my integrator that's going to do the coaching up or coaching out, just to say it nicely. But again, if the framework is there, I'm just going to say to the person that's underperforming, "Hey, what can you deliver next quarter?" And if that's acceptable or better than last quarter, let's ride it out then. Let's see if they can deliver. And I may even ask, "Hey, if you don't deliver that, what do you think we should do as a company for the greater good of the company? What should we do, David?"
Mhm.
And if David really cares about the greater good of the company, I'll say, "Well, I think that we maybe should find somebody that can do actually deliver that." And so I'm just asking questions and I'm asking them to say it, because if I say it, they feel the tension or they don't own it. But if they say it, it's true. And so I'll just use what they say, and they're solving the problem and they're
Mhm.
creating the solution being, if you're not delivering, then maybe we should figure out somebody that is. And so then we just help on a transition plan. Having to fire somebody abruptly is just hard. And there are reasons for it, and there needs to be done sometimes. But most of the time, this is just helping the person see that what we need in that position to deliver and what they're delivering is not working, which is causing their life to be stressful also, and my life. So let's figure out a better solution. Maybe we can move you into a different department or into a different position, or figure out a transition plan for you to work in another company and deliver the valuable things that you do deliver, but it's just not working out here.
Great. David, looking back to your journey as a EOS implementation expert, you have helped so many companies, small companies, large companies, international companies. What are the biggest lessons in leadership and scaling, and what are the learnings from those training that you have given? Share some some thoughts in bulleted form, which are basically the nuggets for the budding startup founders. So, if I have to frame it, that you have done a lot of consulting work on US expert implementer. What are those leadership lessons which always come out of such kind of sessions that my startup founders who are listening to this show can get a handle on and can have some learning out of it?
Let's see. I'll land on this one at least to start us out, and that is clarity is kindness. somebody may have said it before me, but I say it like I own it to my clients, new ones and old ones, all the time. If we can be clear about things, it is kind to ourselves and to the organization and to the results that we get. If I am not clear, if I hold back intentionally or unintentionally, it is going to create more chaos, more misalignment than when I'm clear. And clarity also, feels too abrupt or it feels impossible. But until we put that out there, we're just not going to know even where we're misaligned. So clarity would be the first thing. And when you have a framework, it asks you all the questions. You pose the questions to diverse people that have different opinions. And then it doesn't go democratically. It's not like the most wins. It's like, okay, we hear all of the possible solutions and we settle on a direction for the greater good of the organization. So that clarity then is shared. And I love Patrick Lencioni's works on this, team health. If I have vulnerability-based trust, then I can enter conflict. But then when I have the conflict, there is a commitment that's made. The team decides what's best. And anybody who doesn't buy into that, isn't committed to it, might not be the right organization. And of course, after that, commitment then becomes accountability. That fits with the previous conversation about performance. And then results. And hopefully results, you hit your targets. But even when you don't hit your targets, if you've built all those other foundations, you're just working together with a team that the team loses, you lose. Hey, we gave it our level best, and I feel great about the team that I'm part of. So let's pick up and let's move on to next quarter or next year.
Right. So makes sense. Clarity has to be there. And the initial leaders of the organization will bring that with help of people like you. Now, who is that early stage founder or a family owned business owner is accountable to? You did talk about clarity and then accountability. So many a times, if you are a solopreneur, who are you accountable to? Many people start their business that, now I'm the CEO of my company, I don't have to report to someone. And I think that is such a wrong concept to start with.
Yeah, so who you're accountable to, you're accountable to stakeholders. You're accountable to employees, to bankers, investors. You're accountable to your family. You're accountable to your spouse and your kids about how you're living your life and if that's the best for you and for the people around you. So there's all kinds of accountability. And I think that this is great too. When you write it down, all of those stakeholders can see where you've planted your stake in the ground and they know what you're standing for. And if you invite them in the process to help own that also, to help say, hey, this is going to take 60 hours a week of my for the next 3 months or the next year. And you've said that with your loved ones and your employees and yourself, then you've given them a chance to give feedback and say, man, that's too much. You can't do that. And then you collaborate and decide and then work together in the future.
Great. What does success means to you now?
Success means freedom. So if I have a framework that I can lean into that creates freedom for me, that is great. Success means different things. My core values, generosity is one of those. I love to live that out. So when I'm effective and successful with my clients and delivering value to them, then I'm able to be more generous with what I get blessed with along the way. So I think freedom would be that answer to what is success.
Okay. And now you are training your customers who are entrepreneurs and business owners. What should be success for them? Consider a company which is $40 million in revenue, wants to go to $60 million in 2 years time frame. What should be success for them?
I'm going to lean into EOS and Gino Wickman a little bit. There's a bunch of books. One is the EOS life, or your ideal life. It's doing what you love with people you love, delivering value being compensated fairly, having time for your personal passions or other passions. So that kind of influences what success looks like to me. And I would just say, in the spirit of EOS, and we call ourselves implementers, not consultants. We're more in the coaching area or guiding area. And it's really intentional, because I do not have all the answers for you, but I do have some great questions to ask. And when you answer those, you're creating the framework of success rather than me telling you what success is. Just in your example of scaling your business, one of the questions I have is, do you really want to do that? Is that best for you? Sure. Sounds better to have more top line revenue or better EBITDA, but there are also more complications. There's also more risk. There's also more liability. There's also more people involved. And so if you're not ready to do that, or you're not in a life cycle where you can give more to that business or have the resources to bring on other people to do that with you, then maybe scaling your business is not the best plan for you right now. Maybe it's a time of settling in and waiting for a better opportunity or a better season. So the answer to your question is, we need to determine what success is to you and to your team members. And so that we all know, one person wants freedom, one person wants profit, one person wants to leave a legacy. Family businesses often, Papa, to just talk in Indian terms, maybe he wants something different for his generation of kids and grandkids than what those kids and grandkids want.
Right, right. No, I'm going to buy the book EOS Life and read it, because at my, in my journey of this life, I also feel like, what is really success means, and, why are you here on planet Earth? What do you need to do? So I hope I'll get some clarity by reading this book and talking to you, David. I was reading somewhere, mistakes are part of growth. Structured approach mitigates chaos. Let's dwell some time into it from the EOS perspective, from the implementer of EOS process that you are. Mistakes are part of growth. Structured approaches mitigate chaos.
So I'm curious as to where the quotes come from. And definitely, so chaos is it's around us everywhere. So, when I plant my garden, then chaos erupts. And so my role is to prune things and take out the weeds and address whatever chaos erupts. And if I have a plan to do that, if I have a step-by-step approach and I know what comes next and what comes next to get great result at the end, then I can just follow the framework. And another great thing for entrepreneurs is, until that's on paper, until the process is written down, until you've trained somebody and they're ready to take it on, your life is chaotic, because you're not only managing your own things, you're managing what they're doing as well. So when you bring in process, and when you have a plan, and when you've taken the time to walk people through it and have a great confidence that, yep, they get it and understand it, you can truly delegate to them, and not abdicate your role, but delegate your role that you want them to do, so that you can move up and elevate and work on higher level things. So until I teach my 14-year-old daughter how to do that gardening thing, I shouldn't expect that it's going to go really well. And I need to incentivize her to go ahead and take care of things so that we can all share in the harvest later on. That same philosophy is a guiding force for your business too. If you're struggling with some aspect of this, you want great results, you need to find a great person, talent, train them, and then unleash them. Let them stumble and fall a bit, maybe not to the detriment of the business, but let them build the muscles so that they can do this thing really well without you. And if you hire the right person, they'll do it better than you without you. And then we really get so that the flywheel kicks in, and then we can accomplish far more.